Good morning. Today we'll be doing the past papers on the food chains and relationships between organisms living in an ecosystem. So now if we start off with question number one, they say which organism directly depends on light energy? They are the producers, and the answer is sun because it intake sunlight and they make food by the process of photosynthesis. Now the few fundamental things you need to know in order to know about this chapter are that always the producers are present in the law in the largest amount, and secondly the second most important thing is you need to remember that all energy is always recycled in the ecological system. It is not used up, nor is it gained. So the total energy is always recycled in a food chain. Now, we come to question number two. Which circle represents herbivores are those which eat up plants? So as you can see, the best option would be B because herbivores are eaten by carnivores. However, the herbivores don't eat anything up themselves, and further, when they decay, they return their nutrients back to the soil. Now, we come on question number three. In question number three, they ask us that what is the relationship of weeds in this question. So you need to know that which options are correct. Firstly, option number three is that weeds may use light, water, and mineral ions. That is correct because weeds act as competitors to the plants, and they inhibit the plants from carrying out the process of photosynthesis. They use up their nutrients. So three is correct, and number one is correct as well because weeds make their own energy by the process of photosynthesis. Now we have to tell the correct sequence. The correct sequence is number party. The energy is intaken by the from the sun by the plants, and then the herbivores eat them, and then finally the carnivores eat them. Now you need to know that as we go down the cycle, the amount of energy is lost due to processes such as diffusion, as the energy is lost in the form of heat and in the sweating and also in the appendages. When carnivores eat other animals, they waste the energy in the those body parts which they don't eat. So the amount of energy gets decreasing. But you need to know that, for example, if there are 100 joules of energy which are emitted from a sun, the plant only receives 10 joules of them because the sun is so distant away from Earth that much of the energy is lost during the process. Now, in question number five, what will happen to the owl population if foxes die out? You need to know that in such a relationship, each animal has a synergistic relationship on the other, and if we take one or two out of the equation, it will indefinitely affect each of the other animals, and at the end of the after long period, the population of all of them will decrease. But for now, if we can see that foxes eat rabbits. So if they say that what will happen to the owl population if foxes die out? If foxes die out, there will be more amount of rabbits, since the rabbits aren't being eaten by the foxes, thus the owl will have more prey to eat, so the owl population will increase. Now in question number six, they ask us which of the following describes the bacteria. These bacteria are decomposers, but they say that some types of bacteria make their own food by the process of photosynthesis because they use only CO2 and water. So this makes us classify them in the category of producers as well. Now we have to carefully look at this food web, and we have to show which statement about the food web is correct. So the small birds are carnivores. Yeah, this is correct because the carnivores are those organisms which eat on other organisms. They don't eat plants, which are herbivores. Hummingbird and butterfly are both organisms which feed on plants. So small birds are carnivores. Now, in question number eight, which is type of organism is in the largest number? The producers are always in the largest number. So the mountain tree. Yeah. Now, in question number 10, the question number 9, you can clearly see the decomposition of a leaf as time passes. So this is the function of a decomposer. Now, in question number 10, which pair of animals is the greatest amount of energy available? As I told you that as we go down the food chain, the amount of energy available to each of the four organisms decreases. So the greatest amount of energy is available to the sheep and bull. Now, in question 11, we talk about the relationship between organisms. Yeah, energy is passed from carnivores to herbivores. Proteins are passed what is carbohydrates are passed from decomposers to the producers. Yeah, this is correct. Is because what happens is carbohydrates are, yeah, when decomposers such as fungi act on the soil and they decompose the things, they basically break down the nutrients and recycle the nutrients and replenish the soil with nutrients and minerals such as nitrates and phosphates, which are taken in by producers to grow themselves. Now, which period of we have to correctly identify the pyramid of numbers. You need to know that the pyramid of biomass and the pyramid of numbers are exactly opposite to each other. Now, obviously, the grass will be in the most amount. So, the grass should have the grass the pyramid which features grass should have the greatest width underneath, and the pyramid of biomass will be naturally completely opposited. So if you look at this, there the pyramid of numbers, there should be much grass, but it hasn't been shown like this. So this is the most amount of grass, and similarly, as we go down the food chain, the amount of organisms need to decrease. So this is the rabbits, and the fox will be only one. However, the why we would classify and select option D will be because there will be large amount of fleas which would be feeding on a single fox. Just imagine there can't be a single flea on on a fox, so option D will be correct. Now in question 13, biomass, you need to know that the greatest amount of biomass is of the producers, followed by the herbivores, and finally by the carnivores. In question number 14, they ask us about an organism that eats both plants and animal. That will be number 2, because this is the herbivore and 2 obtains energy from both of 1 as well as 3. Now in question 15, as I told you before that the pyramid of biomass and pyramid of numbers are completely opposite to each other. So naturally, you can see that option 2 and 3 are completely opposite to each other. So we can just select option C, but I'll tell you the reason behind it as well. They say that there is an insect larva in the leaf, so the insect larvae must be of large amount, and the emerging insects are eaten by birds. The birds would be smaller than the larvae, but the parasitic fleas would be in the largest amount. So in pyramid of numbers, 3 is that option. However, if you talk about the pyramid of biomass, obviously just use your common sense that fleas cannot weigh so much, and even though they are in large amount, they would not weigh. So the fleas are in the have this smallest weight as depicted in option number 2. Now in question 16, which box represents producers? What is the function of producers? Producers basically you intake oxygen and they emit CO2 out. So, and the double arrow as depicted shows the flow of organic substances. You can see that if we talk about option B, the flow of carbon dioxide is out as depicted, and the double arrow shows the flow of organic substances. Organic substances are returned by the producer back to the soil. Now in question number 17, carbon dioxide is emitted in the air, which is contributes to global warming and is a greenhouse gas. What it does is that it traps the heat energy inside the ozone within the ozone layer, and thus heat is responsible for warming up the earth. So if we select the option, we can see that the process that causes increase in CO2 is the burning of fossil fuels, whereas the process that causes a decrease in carbon dioxide is photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants intake carbon dioxide and emit oxygen, and that is the reason why we are encouraged to plant more and more of trees. Now, we have to describe the earthworm and the woodlouse. The earthworm and woodlouse both feed on the plant material, so they are both the consumer and the herbivore. Now, in question 19, you have to carefully look at the option, and the option says always. Although fungi also obtain their energy from dead organic matter, however, specific exceptions can exist, such as the in the question above, in which we saw the bacteria which carried out the process of photosynthesis. However, if you talk about the definition of decomposers are always those organisms which obtain their energy from dead organic material. The definition implies so. Now in question 20, as I told you before as well, that energy is always recycled by the decomposers and it is neither lost nor gained in the ecosystem. In question number 21, what is the energy source? The main energy source It is not depicted over here, but I told you that the sun is the main energy source for the food web. Now in question 22, they have asked us to identify carnivore, herbivore, and producer separately. So as you can see, the correct option will be C. Why it will be C? Because a carnivore is represented by 8. 8 is a fish which eats on other fish. A herbivore is option number 3, because option number 3 only eats plants. It does not eat any other animal. And finally, option number 2 is of the producer is 4, as we can all see it is a plant. Now, if we talk about question number 5, that how do producers obtain the energy? They obtain the energy by the process of photosynthesis. In question number 24, they have asked that what happens to the energy in an organism, and in which process there isn't a net loss of energy. So in photosynthesis, there is a net gain of energy, and we have talked about previously as well that photosynthesis is an anabolic process in which energy is always formed. Now, question 25, the questions keep repeating after you reach a specific set of questions, and you keep practicing about 20 to 25 questions. The essential concepts are repeated. So as you can see that in question number 25, the original energy source is always the sun. The pyramid of biomass for this food chain, the greatest, the width should be of the producer, followed by the herbivore, and lastly by the carnivore. This is best represented by option C. Now in question number 26, they have asked us to count the number of herbivores. So we'll just count them. The number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So there are 4 herbivores as you can see in this food cycle. Yeah, and I missed one, the goat as well. Goat is always also herbivore. So there are total 5. Now, why is the definition of a producer is one which produces energy. This was quite straightforward. And lastly, as we come to the closing, they have asked us to identify the feeding relationships. We can see that S is the organism which feeds on decaying leaves, and thus it supplies the plants with energy. So the best option should be it should supply energy to more than two organisms. So S supplies energy to both P and Q. And as you can see that R is a butterfly, so R feeds on the plant, and it helps to obtain nectar from it. So the best answer is A. Thank you for listening to the video. I hope to join you soon with a new video.